Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mythic Mel on Awakening Airwaves. I am your host, Melinda, Mythic Mel herself, and in this podcast, I invite the beautiful muses to sing for us once more of Greek myth. Welcome to Mythic Mel on Awakening Airwaves. I'm so glad you're here for this amusing episode. Today, I tell a story about opening a consciousness portal to my honored guests, the muses, and I go on a muse-led associative side trip into numerology. With a sprinkle of tarot, I share a lot I did not know before about a very common but very special flower. And I end up going on a quest that's full of gratitude and friendship, synchronicities, and wonder. Even a saint shows up, totally out of the blue. But first, the muses have an urgent message for our time, which they have asked me to relay. Please enjoy my musings. The most important thing when we look at all the muse stories of mythology is that they're very interested in harmony. Harmony as a tool for healing. Harmony as a way to create accord, agreement between people who are fighting. Harmony as a way to sing our songs and express our art and appreciate the natural world and even observe and study the natural world with scientific inquiry. That was all part of the muses' agenda. And they wanted us to have ways to access higher mind and leave our low, fear-based, constricted, isolated thinking mind behind, at least for part of the day, and access their wisdom. And I love that thought about them, that it's about healing, it's about harmony. And where does that all start? It starts with your own instrument, tuning your own body to be able to vibrate to harmonic resonance with things that feel good. And they map out ways we can do that. They give us some clues, and we're going to look at those clues as we go forth. They want us to consciously keep our channels of inspiration to them open. And they do want us to laugh. And they do want us to figure out ways to create peace and harmony both within and without, with our relationships with others. And to get in that field of, like when you're at a concert, a music concert, and everybody's swaying to the music, and you can look at a person that you've never met and fall in love. I don't mean erotic love, but just like there is this human swaying to this beautiful music and we're together. And if that could just ripple out, that is what the muses would love and appreciate. And as I say this, of course, I'm thinking that's what our world really needs right now. The world needs the muses, as difficult as things may be, as many strife, clashes, lines of butting up against each other. The muses' shape is a circle. The muses' shape is inclusion and bringing people together. But how do we really connect with them is what I'm interested in. And which ones are speaking to us at any one time, and how can we bring them into our daily life, again, more consciously, to create harmony. So I have a little story about that. The other day, I was sitting up here in my sanctuary, and I was doodling, which is one of my favorite practices. And I was doodling this spiral. This is a method that helps open awareness and shift consciousness from like rigid mind or constricted mind to a mind that's more flexible, that breaks rules even, and that opens you up to new insights from your unconscious field or superconscious field. So I was doodling, I was drawing this spiral with my favorite pen, which I will share with you. It's a type of Pilot Precise V7. And I took the pen and I just started at the center of an index card and I slowly drew counterclockwise. And counterclockwise is the Earth's rotation around the sun. That's the direction it goes. And it's also my favorite way of spinning when I dance. And that's the way the Sufis spin, because they're in harmony with the planetary motion. They spin to the left, they have their right hand up to the heavens and their left hand down to earth. Spinning. I took my time as I drew, and I kept the lines very close together while trying not to cross them as my hand moved. And actually, I was about to say as I moved my hand, but my hand moved. Which is, have you ever had that feeling where you're doing something and then suddenly it's like you're not doing it, something else is guiding it, it's moving itself? The same way the breath, you suddenly have that sensation of you're not breathing, but you're being breathed. If you've never felt this, it's okay. It's just, it has happened to me, and maybe some of you can resonate with that. But as I was spiraling, I directed my awareness to a gentle body scan, breathing and relaxing different parts of my body from the feet up through the knees and the thighs. You can do this kind of scan in the background while doing other things and still be safe. Although don't close your eyes if you're driving, but you just notice, you relax the face and the neck and the organs, and then meanwhile just drawing the spiral, breathing and melting into the process. And then all of a sudden, my hand decided to go a different way, and I just let it, and it moved away from the spiral, and it drew a line, and it had a couple of bumps, and it turned some corners, and then, like magic, a snail emerged from the creative process. And the snail has a spiral shell. And if you watch the video of this, you'll see, and I'll post it on my social media, but she's very sweet. I love my little snail. And keep her in mind because she's going to come back later in an interesting synchronicity. So, doodling is not just doodling. Doodling opens portals to different frequencies, to different aspects of consciousness. And as I was doing this doodle, I felt this frequency shift in the air, and I started to smell like a fresh mountain breeze, and I smelled this flower scent that I had never smelled before, and it was just so beautiful, and I wanted to know what it was, and I looked up, and all of a sudden my space was filled with 9 beautiful dancing women barefoot with veils around me, and they were chanting, in a sing-song voice. Mythic Mel, your name comes from the bee. Mythic Mel, we're here to make honey. Well, that was pretty wild. I've had some good trips lately just with meditating, but this was over the top, very mythic. I wasn't sure if I was dreaming, what was going on. I am used to being surrounded by beautiful dancing women, it is true, but it's usually in the dance floor of my studio. And this time it was right here in my sanctuary. But with this work and this healing path, I've learned to expect the unexpected. Surprises show up. And I've learned to just relax and dialogue with whatever comes up. There is nothing to fear. Everything that comes in love and support as a message for you. So I did dialogue with them, and I was actually very direct, and I was like, ladies, I have work to do. I have to structure my podcast so it's very clear, it's very informative, so that listeners really understand why they're listening to it. What are you doing here? And why are you talking about honey? Well, they told me. We are the Muses, the daughters of Zeus, who is the king of all gods. He is the god who rules all the gods and goddesses of Mount Olympus, and he carries the thunderbolt. This is the electrical life force energy that runs through all of our systems, that lights us up. That is our fire. That is our expanded consciousness. That is our life force. And our whole field is infused with Zeus energy. And he is our father, they said. And our mother is Nemesine. I'll spell that for you in the show notes. And she is the goddess of memory. This is not the memory of like crap that happened to you that you're pissed off about from last week, but it's the memory of the original song of the universe, of where we all come from and where we're all going, and how we can even be there right now if we harmonize ourselves to this frequency. And the Muses said that they transmit the God energies of both parents through music, through songs, through poems, through looking at the sky, through dancing and chanting together, and through making creations of all kinds. We bring people together, they said. We do not tear them apart. Now, I was paying attention because this is the channel I want to open to. The channel of unity and the channel of harmony with others. And they brought up honey, they said, because honey is used to heal wounds. Often honey is associated with the Muses and being honey-tongued, because they give the gift of eloquence. And they said, good honey never spoils. And at the heart of it all, the Muses are healers, and they deliver sweetness through the senses. And they give the gift of eloquence and authentic speaking also to writers and lawyers and judges and leaders, honorable leaders, who seek agreement between people, who are able to help settle disputes harmoniously by looking at what's fair, what's unfair, and bringing it into balance. That's from the Muses. And the Muses want to make sure that the world we live in now doesn't lose that essence. And they don't want us to outsource our creativity either. but to be consciously engaged with our art making and to thank the muses for that and to bring the muse consciousness into everyday ritual so that we can kind of weave it through our system, feel harmony within ourselves first, so we can express that out and kind of build a tipping point of harmony for all of humanity at this time. And the muses told me that my spiral snail was the summoning moment for them. And through that process of spiraling and doing my conscious breathing, I shifted my mind into a more theta state of awareness. My brainwaves slowed down. My energy body was open and receptive. And I took a closer look now at these muses around me, and I counted them. And then I was blown away because synchronicities began to reveal themselves to me, and all kinds of associations came through. There were 9 muses, and that number is very significant. In the year that we are right now that I'm recording, it's 2025, and that is a universal year 9. So if you add 2 and 2 and 5, 2025, it's 9. And once you get on this path of spirituality and you start to open up to all these different healing modalities and practices and wisdoms that are ancient, numerology comes in very strong, because in numerology, every number has a meaning, a frequency. There's a lot to be learned through number. And 9 is a very, very wise, very humanitarian number. And here they were, 9 muses in the year 9. And I'm wondering if you've ever paid attention to special numbers. Do maybe some of them stand out to you? Usually there are. I know there's a lot of people who pay attention to angel numbers, and there's a reason we're attracted or we notice certain numbers. We all can even calculate our life path numbers, our numbers that help us figure out and connect with our purpose. I love looking at numerology. 9 is one of the numbers I connect with personally because I was born on the 27th, which is 2 plus 7 is 9. So there's a whole lot to say about 9, but its meaning is that it's the end of a cycle. If you think about, it's the last single digit number before you reach 10. Also, 9 is a triple 3. And 3 is the number of creativity in numerology. And it's the number of the goddess of love. So Venus is connected, Aphrodite is connected to 3. And when you have 3 3s, that is thrice creative. That is like power, power, creativity. And there are the 9 muses, and they are inspiring us to create. So again, I was really struck with the 9 muses that have lived through millennia until now. And 9 as a number has lived, it's loved, it's learned, it's full of earthly integrity, but it's also connected to the divine. But the real 9 that popped into my mind when I saw my muse ladies dancing around me was the 9 of Pentacles in the tarot. Because the 9 of Pentacles, if you think about it, at the bottom left of the card, and I'll show an image of it, is a tiny snail. Okay, a snail. I did not plan this, I swear. I did not have that in mind when I started the spiral and the connection to the muses. But the muses clearly orchestrated that connection. And that is the kind of amazing synchronicity and association that happens when you allow yourself to doodle as a sacred act. So the pentacles in tarot are associated with creativity, with growth processes on the material plane, including health, wealth, and well-being. And the snail is a reminder to me that cultivating creations of any sort requires patience, moving at a slower pace than we've all gotten used to. And that's in part why I am slowing down in this episode and tuning into the pace of the snail, hopefully not losing you in the process. But I was like, let me really listen to this snail wisdom, because then we can savor what comes through. And that's when I realized that rather than memorize all these dry facts about the muses and keep repeating their names and tell you what they're associated with, like analytical mind to analytical mind, because you can search all that on the Googles, I want to connect with those muses on a more personally mythic and intuitive way, a feeling way. And for me, that usually starts with really looking at how they're portrayed in the myth, and then closing my eyes and really visualizing what is going on in the description. And then allowing whatever little details are in there to dance and to just, maybe I'll be doodling my spiral as I do it and thinking and drawing aspects of what I've heard in whatever way that comes through. But this is how I process symbols and words even, and through my body, through my imagination, through my feeling field, not just my thinking field. So I'm going to share that with you, this process and what happened and what the muses inspired me to do, to hopefully inspire you as well. So I'm going to look at the epic poem Theogony, which is a poem by Hesiod, the shepherd I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, who wrote about the creation of the cosmos and the birth of all the gods, because the muses came and told him to. And I realized that what I needed to do was take the first 4 lines of this poem and make an altar to the muses. And just take my time, because this altar creation is like creating a museum, a sacred museum to some concept that you want to spend time with. And that way you can kind of really learn from whatever energy that is come into your awareness. So for me, it's the energies of the muses, and in order to get in touch with them, I really wanted to make an altar. I am obsessed with altar making. That's for another time. I have a moon altar. I'm always tracking the phases of the moon. I'm always tuning into my wombiverse, and I have water at my moon altar. I have a sun altar, which is more for greeting the day and manifesting. And so I'm actually starting my muse altar at my desk, where I create and imagine and dream. So anyway, back to the poem. There was Hesiod, this shepherd, on his mountain, and he's tending his flock. And he's looking off dreamily out into the green field. Beyond that, there's the twinkling water of the sea, the Aegean Sea in the distance. And he's probably letting his mind just wander, as the clouds float by, musing on this or that. And in that state of consciousness, similar probably to my spiraling exercise, that created an opening. And the muses came to him and they told him what they wanted him to sing. And they again here asked him, please, we will give you this beautiful voice. We will give you the song and the memory of how the cosmos came to be, and all the energies and all the archetypes and all the gods and goddesses and monsters and heroes and heroines and everything, how that all came to be. But you must, they said, thank us at the beginning and at the end of creations. So he did. And the poem starts, Theogony, with an invocation to the muses. And the first 4 lines are enough to spiral us into another dimension of consciousness. And they give us everything we need to both make an altar and really reads like a meditative guided journey, which if you're on this path, also, you've probably encountered guided journeys, and they really help you kind of stay present with yourself and your breath and expand your consciousness and your awareness out from the material into the intangible realms. Sorry, I keep knocking my water. So I'll have a sip. So here are the 4 first lines of Hesiod's Theogony, the invocation to the muses. Begin our singing with the Heliconian muses, who possess Mount Helicon, high and holy, and near its violet-stained spring, on petal-soft feet, dance, circling the altar of Almighty Cronion. All right, I'll break it down a little bit. These lines are very loaded with information, and they're so beautiful, and they're so full of details, and it makes me want to choreograph a whole dance already. That's how things work in my world. I probably will be teaching a dance next month about the muses. But this is how art inspires other art, and this is how we connect through the ages, and that's just how it all works, and that's how the muses want it. So all the beautiful elements are there in the poem, right? There's the geography of a high and holy mountain. That's like when you shift your awareness up to a higher dimension, and from there you see a broader view of life and a bigger picture of consciousness. You see, takes you out of small mind into the big mind. And also there is the sound vibration of a poetic voice, the incantation to the muses. And there's mention of a violet-stained spring. This is fresh water, and you can hear the bubbling spring. You can smell the crushed violets and the touch of these soft, bare feet on the grass. And they're dancing around an altar, a circle altar, which is sort of a spiral on a flattened plane. And they dance around the altar of Almighty Cronion, and that is a way of saying Zeus, who is son of Kronos, who was a titan that Zeus had to overthrow in order to become the king of gods. But there's more to be said on Kronos another time, but it's really a way of talking about Zeus, and it brings in the concept of Genesis, since Zeus is the son of Kronos. And so therefore we sort of remember we all come from someone, we all come from somewhere. We remember that we are biological museums coming ultimately from the mystery of source, also the gurgling spring. So now we get to the really fun part, where adventures began for me and synchronicities that happened in the process of my altar creation. And this is where I made my list and I went out into the world curious, and I knew it would be some kind of adventure. I didn't know what. I didn't have expectations. But if you were going to make an altar out of those 4 lines, I'm pretty sure that you would probably have some of the same things that I would. So, but I'm curious, like, if you have other things you'd put on the altar, let me know. But on my list was for sure, number 1, violets. I know really very little about violets, and I was just so struck by the violet-stained spring. So, and of course the petal soft feet, and petal, not like a bike pedal, but the petal of a flower. The feet, that feet energy, immediately when I read that, I also felt like I should go get a pedicure and get my heels exfoliated so I could be more like the muses. And so because I'm who I am, I couldn't just go get some violets. I had to find out more about them first, had to connect with them energetically. If you have violet experience and knowledge, please comment. I would love to hear. And I was still trying to figure out, like, do I want to draw violets for the altar? Do I want to cut out pictures? And I was like, no, I need to find out more about them. So I did my Googles and I learned that violets, first of all, they appear in a lot of Greek myth. They are sacred to the city of ancient Athens. They are edible. And suddenly I remembered that I have eaten violet petals in salads. They're very beautiful. That they've been used as a medicine for helping get good sleep. They soothe inflammation. They can assist in respiratory problems, purify the blood, stimulate the lymphatic system. The list goes on. And I became quite obsessed with the list. Possibly because I'm Scorpio rising. I go deep. But the other thing was that in the midst of this listing and this violet searching, I had an appointment with a psychic medium who I had met with years ago and who had guided me through this inner child healing that I will never forget. If you've never experienced an inner child healing, I highly recommend it. You have to be ready with your Kleenex and ready to love yourself sweetly in the aftermath. It's good to have support. This lady who helped me is an oracle. Anyway, she was back around my town, and I wanted to take the time, not even to find out anything specific about myself now, but to thank her, just to take the opportunity to have an open-ended session and thank her for how she really helped shift my life, because I felt energy in a different way after meeting with her. And I understood my imagination to be more divine and more connected to intuition than I ever knew. And she just helped open me up to this journey and help me cultivate this reverence for our imaginative faculty, for the muses, and how it all relates and folds back into our inner guidance system more deeply. So the long story short was that in the session, among many other things, she told me that she saw Saint Germain around me. Now, I have no idea who is Saint Germain beyond the neighborhood in Paris, Saint-Germain-des-Prés. And when I got home, I looked him up and found that he is considered an ascended master and is often referred to as Saint Germain of the violet flame. Well, my hair stood on end at this. In the midst of all my violet hunting for the muses, of all the learning, of all the saturating of the violets into my field, here was now a very spiritual message from Saint Germain of the violet flame. And so now I am proceeding with an even greater sense of awe about this whole thing. And now the muses sent me down another rabbit hole about this bishop who turned into the saint, who worked in Paris in 530 something. And he worked for peace in a time of war. And he used the violet flame as a spiritual tool that was believed to transmute negative energies into positive ones and to activate the divine within, which sounds very much like what the muses want, to change discord into harmony within ourselves so that it can be expressed outward from us, right? We see the world, we experience the world, not as it is, but as we are. And the more harmonized we can get with our own choices, our own decisions, our own lives and loves and those who surround us, the easier it will be to go out into the world and find that harmony with others. So this is something I completely got behind. And I felt like this message from Saint Germain of the violet flame was like, go find living violets right away, forget the snail, run, go get some violets. And I did that. And I drove with my friend out to this farm store called Idlewild, which is also so muse-like as a name because it means kind of being idle or musing in the wild, which is where the muses always meet everybody, is out in nature. So I looked for violets. Well, it's not wild violet season out there. It's supposed that's in the spring more, and I found some substitutes for now. I'll be showing this altar later, but for now I will show onto the YouTube channel version of this the beautiful African violets that I got. And just if you're listening to the podcast, don't worry. Just imagine beautiful purple, sweet flowers. And that will be on my muse altar. And you can check it out another time. And I took my groceries and my little plant flowers to the checkout line to be scanned. And the cashier, who looked about to be 14 years old, was so excited by the flowers that she told me her friend used to make violet syrups out of violet petals. And she wanted to tell me all about it, like how many petals she was amazed but it took to make the syrup and how delicious the syrup was. And this is just unprompted. I'm just checking out. I have cucumbers, I have radishes, I have violets, and she's just going on and on about the violets. And then the next thing that happens is the bagger, who's this older gentleman, is putting my stuff into a bag. And he says, yeah, I was obsessed with violets as a child. I used to make violet jello with gelatin and violets crushed. And he used to watch how horses would be able to like separate the violet petals from the leaves, which apparently are not so good for horses. And he would lie on his belly for hours at a time and watch horses eat violets. This was his childhood obsession. So I have learned there are no accidents, and that the muses were validating every step of my altar creation adventure. It truly was, I live for these kinds of synchronicities. And so I stepped out into the world and got to meet these beautiful people and hear their stories and hear about their friends who also loved violets and the horses who also loved violets. And And now I understood even more deeply how this act of flexing your muse muscle, I'm like following guidance, following the spiral to the snail, to the altar, to the lilac, or violet, to the lilac, to the violets, eventually leads you out of yourself and into community, which is one of the functions also of the muses. It's not just stay enclosed making your art, but to share. So anyway, I thought that was amazing. And I wanted to hug these people. They had no idea about my muse adventure. And I didn't tell them, but I was just blown away, and I felt very seen by spirit, if you will. So I wanted to talk about the Saint Germain of the Violet Flame one more time, because I feel like that's a direction I'm going to be going now. There is a quote of Saint Germain, a poem, a mantra that I will put on my altar. Okay, here it is. This is a mantra relating to Saint Germain. Save the world with violet flame by the power of 3 times 3. This waltzing, spinning energy will set all life now free. O atoms, cells, electrons, within this form of mine, let violet flame pass through me, its essence most sublime. So I found those mantras, and there again was another wink from the muses, because it said 3 times 3, and it was mentioned with the violet flame. And it talked about electrons, which is like electricity of Zeus. And I'm telling you, if you want to enter a wondrous field of synchronicities, if you want to create an altar or birth a special ceremony, get in touch with the muse energies, and they will show you a very delightful adventure. So please, if you have resonated with any aspect of this transmission from the muses, let me know in the comments. You can always join me in drawing a spiral and send me your spiral creations. What did they turn into? What did they say to you? If you want to have reiki or alchemical conversation, join me at the speakeasy. I send you all encouragement and harmony as you create, as you observe the stars and the movement of the planets, as you pick up the instruments you haven't played in years, and as you spend time at places like Idlewild, places with beautiful flowers and plants, or just wild nature, and just watch in wonder as it all unfolds. Don't be afraid to take your time to let your mind wander. Experiment with guided journeys. And let me know if any of this sparked anything in you. Let me know what altars you're creating and what numbers have been popping up for you and what muse has been requesting your attention. Sometimes these energies are very subtle, and you have to feed them and give them time and give them thanks. And in return, they'll nourish you times 9. I'm signing off for now. This is Mythic Mel. Have a beautiful, beautiful journey.